Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and do some more turkey patterning, and today we've got another really interesting combo to run. It's another lead shell from a sub gauge that a lot of people would never even really think about using for turkeys, but we've already tried another lead load in a similar combination to this and it actually did surprisingly well. And when we did that video, I had several people comment and said, hey, what about these particular shells? They could be pretty nice as well. And I already had them because I already wanted to see the same thing. Exactly how capable were they really? So we're going to find out today just what kind of patterns we can get from them and maybe what our range limitations might be. Before the shells I've got, I brought out some more of the Federal game load shells, but these ones are the 28 gauge Federals. So we're definitely down there into the sub gauge with lead territory. Not a whole lot of people would think about using these when it comes to turkeys anyway, but the 28 has always been a very nice patterning shell across the board. So we may not be completely out in left field just yet, but these ones are a 2 3/4 inch 1 ounce load of lead 6s at about 12-20 feet per second. Pretty standard stuff here. This is your regular old field load, you know, wing shooting, dove, rabbits, squirrels, that kind of stuff. Usually these Federal game load shells pattern pretty evenly on the board. They're definitely not dedicated turkey shells for sure, but we may be surprised considering they're a 28 gauge load. We're going to try them and see what they pattern like and kind of see what our range limitation might be, because these are obviously going to be way cheaper than a TSS shell is. So for somebody that might want to run a 28 but not have a massive budget to work with, you might be able to make something like this work. As for our shotgun we're running today, I brought out the Tristar Viper 28 gauge. It's got a 28 inch barrel on it, and for our choke, we've gone with the Trulock TSS Turkey. It's a 515 constriction choke, but it's always been a very nice patterning choke for us with pretty much everything we've put through it. So will the 515 be a little too much choke for a lead 6 and 28? Sometimes in these sub gauges you can quickly over constrict the lead shell, so maybe not. We're going to try it and see what we get, and if we see some pretty enticing results, we can try some other 515s or 520s or whatever the case is from there. So in theory, should be a decent combo, and we'll see what it does. So as for today's test, obviously, lead in a 28 gauge is not the ideal turkey combo for sure. Doesn't mean it can't be done. A lead 6 at 1200 is still a lead 6 at 1200 regardless of what gauge of shell it comes from. The pattern density is going to be our big factor with the lack of pellet count. So we're going to take 3 shots, one at 20, 30, and 40 yards. We'll see how our pattern opens up at a little longer distance, how far out we can keep a reliably consistent turkey pattern, and it may surprise us or it may be completely terrible. We're just going to have to see. But let's get you guys a view of those 3 targets. We'll take our shots and we'll see what the Federal game load 6s can actually do for a turkey pattern, if they're good enough or if you should probably just stick to TSS. Okay, so quick look at our velocities before we look at our targets. We have a boss claim of 1220, and I think we were bouncing just a hair below that number. We had 1211, 1222, and 1206 for an average right at 1213. So 7 feet per second below their boss claim. We're seeing right where we should be overall. So plenty enough velocity for a lead 6 to get the job done, but do we have the pattern performance to do it? Let's go check it out and see. Okay, so here we are down at our 3 targets. We have 20, 30, and then 40, and we definitely see some pretty interesting results here. It's probably about what I expected to see overall, but down here, especially towards the 20-yard range, we have some pretty nice looking turkey patterns, all things considered. Obviously, I think we can all agree that lead in a 28 gauge is not the magical ideal combination to hunt turkeys with, but a lead 6 is still a lead 6 at 1200 regardless of what shell it comes from, and it will do the job if you have the pattern capability to do it, and if you make a smart decision on what shots you take and don't take. Obviously, I wouldn't be trying my luck at 50-60 yards with this combo, but 30 yards and in, we're going to be killing turkeys with it still just the same. Although TSS is probably still the better option when it comes to these sub gauges for sure. But first up, we'll start over here with our 20-yard pattern. Obviously, that is a very dead turkey. Nice ball of shot right there through the middle of the neck. Although it's not a lot of pellet count in the entire payload, that's a lot of pellets relative to how many we have total right through that neck. Now, yeah, it's not entirely difficult to kill a turkey at 20 yards with just about any shell from any sort of gun and choke combo. You can do the job with a lot of stuff at 20, so not a huge ask overall, but a nice hot condensed area of shot to start with. There's always the chance that that 515 choke could have absolutely blown our pattern all over the place, and it really did not. We do have a couple little flyers to deal with already at 20 over there off the right, so maybe we are over constricting them just a little bit, but it didn't completely ruin the entire pattern. So 20-yard turkeys, absolutely, you can shoot them with that all day long, and they won't know the difference between this and a TSS load and a 12 gauge. The turkey's going to be dead the same either way. So now moving over to our 30-yard pattern, we still do indeed have a dead turkey. There's 2 through the brain, several through the top of the spine, and a couple more as we get towards the bottom of the spine. And there's technically nowhere he can move and get through that pattern. So it is indeed 30-yard capable, but you can obviously see how broad we're starting to get already. And although the entire size of the outer edges of the pattern isn't massive yet, you can see the lack of pellet count starting to come into play. You start picking up areas that are a little thinner and stuff than there are in other areas. You just don't have a massive number of pellets to work with. But I would say it still can reliably take a turkey at 30 yards. But just looking at this, with the turkey target still up, I'm saying that about 30 yards or so is probably going to be our safe limit, which that's pretty typical for lead in a sub gauge, kind of across the board really, 20 gauge and on down. If you want to run lead, 30 yards and in is a safe bet to stay at. And finally, we'll move over here to our 40-yard pattern. Do we still have a dead turkey? Yes, indeed we do. There's 4 or 5 of them through the brain up there that would have absolutely done the job, as well as another 1 or 2 that clip spine up and down there. So yes, that turkey would have been dead at 40 yards. But we can also see our pattern is much more like a wing shooting pattern now. We've covered most of the entire paper here with shot. We've definitely opened it up. Our lack of pellet count is starting to expose a few void areas mixed in within there as well. So maybe technically it might be turkey capable to 40 yards, but I personally would not push it to that kind of distance. I think we're starting to gamble a little bit too much to where we might wound a bird versus might stone a bird at 40, and it could kind of go either way if you get lucky or unlucky. Not really the ideal situation. So it really does look like 30 yards or so and in is about what you're looking at here. Nothing wrong with shooting those distances. A lot of birds are shot at 25 or 30 yards or so. So it would certainly do the job if you wanted to run it, but I don't know that I would push it to 40 necessarily anyway. Would be a decent small game rabbit type of load for sure. You could hunt doves with it and stuff like that, which that technically is the intended use for these shells anyway. It would work fine for that. But let's pull the turkey targets down. We'll finish drawing circles and counting pellets, and we'll really get an idea on what our patterns look like as far as the numbers go. Okay, so now we've got the turkey targets out of our way, and we can definitely see what we were looking at earlier for sure. Still thinking 30 yards or so is about the realistic limit here. And any farther past there, we definitely start turning way more into a wing shooting pattern or a small game pattern than an actual turkey pattern. But for 30 yards and in, there's some pretty nice performances overall for what our combination actually is here today. So again, we'll start at 20 yards. We have a 10 and 20 inch circle drawn here. Within our 10 inch core, we have 156 pellets with a very tight little golf ball area of shot right dead in the center of it. Obviously, that's gonna hammer a turkey if you take that shot at 20 yards, no question about it. And it's pretty tight as well. In our 20 inch leeway ring, we pick up 37 additional pellets, but it gets pretty thin pretty quickly. So not a whole lot of leeway to work with if you're taking an awkward shot or something at a turkey at 20 yards. We do have a little bit of stringy stuff over there off the right. I believe there's 6 pellets total outside of our 20 inch ring. And we kind of see that little bit of stringy stuff kind of throughout all of our patterns really, just around the edge. So that may be a sign of a little bit too much choke constriction. I think even if we did go to a little less constriction, it would still keep a relatively similar pattern numbers wise, and we would probably still have the same 30 yard or so limitations either way. But 20 yards, dead bird all day long. So now moving over to 30 yards, we still see a plenty capable enough turkey pattern, but we can really see now just how open we actually made our spread, just that 10-yard difference. Within our 10-inch core, we now have 79 pellets compared to 156 at 20 yards. That's about half the pellets, although it does remain pretty nice and even through the core area as well. So certainly enough to do the job. And we filled in most of our 20-inch ring a little bit better as well here. We now have 84 pellets within there compared to only 37 at 20. But we also strung out some around the edges as well over there off the left, and a few more down over here off the top right and the bottom right as well. So the spread is just broadening out some. We're starting to get a few smaller voids showing up in our pattern as well, kind of up there along the top half of that 20-inch ring. So distance wise, I'm confident with that at 30 yards, but I don't know that I would really push it too much farther than that. Because here we now have our 40-yard pattern, and we can really see just how open we've gotten. We're now down to 33 pellets in our 10-inch core compared to 79 at 30 yards. And it's a pretty thin area of shot as well. You can see not a ton of them right through that center core area. Outside of that, with our 20-inch ring, we have 76 pellets compared to 84 at 30 yards. And that's because we have a lot more around the outer edges now. We definitely started stringing some up there at the top and down towards the bottom as well. So, I mean, it would be an okay wing shooting pattern. It would certainly do the job on, rabbits, squirrels, doves, that kind of stuff. The turkey realm, though, although it probably would do the job, I don't know that it would reliably do it. I don't think I would want to gamble at that personally anyway. So the trend continues. Lead in these sub gauges, not really 40-yard reliable anyway, even if it is technically good enough to do the job. And here are the 3 wads from the shells. You've got 20, 30, and 40 yards. All of them look pretty well the exact same. Definitely not a dedicated turkey wad. Much more of just your basic field load style stuff here. But no major damage or anything to them. That's quite a decent little bit of constriction for what these shells are. So we're not completely tearing anything up yet. So looking good here, and all things considered, I think they did their job decently well for us today. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about these performances right here? As far as me personally, I think that's probably pretty realistic for what I expected to see. I figured we were going to see a pretty condensed area of shot at 20 yards, and we were probably still going to be plenty good enough at 30, but past there was really going to be a gamble, and I would say that's pretty well exactly what we saw here. I think we can all agree that lead in a sub gauge, especially anything smaller than a 20 gauge, is extremely limited at the best of times, so I don't think any of us are going to be too surprised here. But hey, if you wanted to run lead in a 28 gauge, they are pretty consistently good patterning guns from what I found with them anyway. And I mean, the turkey would certainly have a bad day inside of 30 yards either way you look at it. So you don't have to run TSS still, but in these sub gauges, if you don't want to run TSS, then you really have to limit your ranges. You have to be smart with what shots you take and don't take, and kind of stick to what you know your setup's capable of. So ultimately, not entirely surprising for today's results. But let me know your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested anything as far as lead goes in 28 gauge for turkeys? And if so, what kind of results have you seen? Is this an actual combo you would turkey hunt with? If you're getting these kind of results, and if so, would you stick to 30 yards? Would you try and push it to 40? Would you say 20, 25 yards or so is your limit? Or are you just going to run a TSS load, which is obviously the better option when it comes to 28 gauge? And maybe what other shells do you want to see us test like this? I have a couple other lead 28 gauge loads that I would like to try as well to see if maybe we can find a magical combination that can legitimately do 40 yards. So let me know what you guys might want to see as far as that goes. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, you have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.